we're talking about in Centers for Spiritual Living in all of 2023, we're talking about living out loud and living our spiritual principles out loud, not just hiding under a bush, but just really being all that we were created to be. In the reading that Brenda shared with us this morning, there is this great infinite power of love and light that wants to come through us into the world. And so we want to live that out loud. And it means that we want to fully express who we are and who we have come here to be. And to do that, it's important that we first discover our authentic self, right? And then we can learn to cultivate the art of living authentically. And that's the theme for the whole month of March. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to have a challenge with this. Okay. I think I've got it fixed. Okay, now that way I can see my notes and you at the same time. But today's topic then is everyone else is already taken. You know, we're each a unique expression of the one life that is God. So it's important that we figure out who we are, because no one else can bring to the world the unique gifts that we have to share. You know, so we have to begin at the beginning and cultivate an awareness of who we are. You know, this is how we are authentic. Socrates wrote, "To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom." And the ancient Greeks thought self-knowledge is so important that they inscribed the words "know thyself" into the forecourt at the temple of Apollo at Delphi. Delphi, if you're American, or Delphi if you're British, or Delphi if you are Greek. So, but I'm going to say Delphi because that's what is in my brain. But it's worthwhile to take some time to consider the sacred significance and rituals that took place at Delphi. Now, Delphi is a sacred site that is in Greece, and it's about 1,870 feet above sea level. And you have to make quite a trek to be there if you were coming from Athens or wherever else in Greece. My husband Michael and I were fortunate enough to visit Greece and Delphi with Jean Houston in 2014, and we did some great rituals there and really got to experience the place, a little bit of what it might have been like for someone that was there, although it's mostly ruins now, but it's an amazing site. And so part of my talk is based on a book by Richard Geldard called The Traveler's Guide to Ancient Greece. If you ever go to Greece, definitely get that book. Geldard was a Stanford philosophy professor who also taught early Greek philosophy at the Holmes Institute. So Michael and I had him for one of our professors. But the Greeks began to worship the god Apollo, one of Zeus's sons, about 1000 BC. And Apollo was associated with the precepts for a happy life, including the moral, social, and intellectual principle of moderation in all things. Now, as one of the plural Greek gods, Apollo was responsible for certain things. One was founding the temples of worship, establishing sacrifices, and ruling over the rituals of purification, the death rituals, and burials, right? Art was also an expressive form attributed to Apollo. You know? Now, pilgrims would make the journey to Delphi and the Temple of Apollo to ask for guidance from the prophetess or the Sibyls on major questions in their life. And the Sibyls would give voice to the oracles that were derived from the sounds of rippling springs, from sacred rocks, and vapors rising from beneath the earth. Some people even believe they might have used some ethnogens to enhance their listening powers. So the oracles that they received were answers to questions which the pilgrims had asked, and then they would listen, the oracle would listen and then transcribe it for the pilgrims with the assistance of the priests. It's similar in purpose to what we would call divine guidance. Right? Now, it was important for both the pilgrims and the priesthood and the prophetesses to prepare for their audience so they were receptive to the guidance. They wanted to get it right. Right? So this is what we do when we meditate, when we pray. we come into that recognition of the oneness that is the truth of who we are. So to prepare, the pilgrims traveled to Delphi, which was situated on the below the twin peaks of Mount Parthenos, and they aspired to know and become with the ruling gods. Even then, oneness was part of their belief system. And once the pilgrims reached Delphi, they followed a sacred and winding path that just wound upward through the temple of Apollo and all of the other monuments, statues, and treasuries that were on that site. The treasuries were used to store sacrificial donations and great wealth that they had there. The one building they passed was the Asclepion, where they practiced healing arts. And with Jean Houston, she does a lot of things where you go back in time and practice arts. And so we did this amazing, it was about 35 of us that were there. And we did these healing meditations and processes that were you could really sense the presence and the power of what was going on there, right? Now, before all audiences, the pilgrims, priesthood, the prophetesses, the sibyls would purify themselves by bathing in the waters of the Castilian spring. And there were stone ducts that had been built to carry that spring water to several basins for bathing. Now, the pilgrims would come into the temple of Apollo and wait in the forecourt, which was called the naos. And in that naos where they were waiting, there were the sayings of 7 wise ones that were inscribed on the walls to inspire alignment of the pilgrim's psyche, mind, and body. Now, one of the sayings was nothing to excess, right? Which is definitely good advice. We've heard that in many forms, right? But the most famous inscription was know thyself, and it had 2 meanings. First, to beware of one's human condition relative to the gods. And second, the God resides within us and can be heard through our psyche when we listen. So together, the saying know thyself meant that if the pilgrim listened to the divine guidance through their psyche and the words of the oracle that were shared with them and kept their mind and body aligned with their psyche, with that spiritual indwelling, with that divine guidance, then they would come to know themselves. Right? And another way to say that is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we want to discover that spiritual part of ourselves because that is our authentic self. To know ourselves then is to know our authentic self and the person that we came here to earth to be. Because we are one with the infinite reality, the one reality, whether we call it God or spirit or source or Atman, we are spiritual beings first, and then we are human beings we're spiritual beings having that human experience. So our authentic self is always perfect, whole, and complete, regardless of whatever we're experiencing in our physical lives. And sometimes that coming back to that belief has gotten me through some difficult times, right? And you can only see the next minute ahead of you. Knowing that I'm a spiritual being gives me the courage and the presence, knowing the presence of God is here to take that next step and the next and the next and see the divine in the midst of it. Now, the passage that from This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes that Brenda read this morning is one of my all-time favorites of his writing. It's very, very powerful. And he says, your soul, you belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion. You are as much a part of it as the sun, the earth, and the air. I mean, what a sense of belonging. That we belong here as much as the sun, the earth, and the air. I mean, if we had any doubt that we don't belong here, that we're not a part of it all, he's saying, yes, you belong. You are a part of it all. Very empowering. And then this is the quote that was on the slide. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. Let that sink in. The creative intelligence of the universe is seeking fulfillment by expressing itself in us, through us, and as us. What a sacred existence we each have, each one of us, right? And so Holmes says that our divine self is not an infinite extension of our limited self, but part of the infinite divine self, right? However infinite we can imagine ourselves to be, coming from our perspective of the finite world, our infinite divine self, our authentic self, is even greater. Because we are part of the infinite, there are parts of ourselves that we have yet to discover. We may never discover in this lifetime, but we are part of the infinite one. Then Holmes quotes Emerson: every man or woman is a doorway through which the infinite passes into the finite, through which God becomes human, through which the universal becomes individual. Emerson, as well, is saying that each one of us is an expression of that one infinite, invisible life. And so back to Holmes again. The real spirit of you is as eternal as God, as indestructible as reality, and as changeless as truth. This pattern is seeking to manifest through you. Finally, it will win. It is always there, waiting for us to be ready, right? Waiting for us. And it's up to us to say yes, to listen. It is this divine self, this authentic self, that is back of all that we do and all that we believe ourselves to be. And if we follow the saying of the ancient Greeks, know thyself, if we align our body and mind with that spiritual psyche, our conscious awareness of the one infinite spirit, then our lives will also be that perfect expression of the divine, of our authentic self. That is our potential. Amazing. And so once we have cultivated this awareness of who we are, the next step is to cultivate compassion for ourselves. When we comprehend this great potential that our authentic self could be, and our human side may soon ask, so what stands between our authentic self and how we show up in the world? This definitely isn't this perfection that's promised. Well, this is where we shift from cultivating awareness for who we are to cultivating that compassion for ourselves. Think about what happens at the moment that we're born, right? We've been comfortable in our mother's womb. Every need is met. We're nice and warm. We don't have to eat or breathe. The oxygen and the nutrients just flow through our umbilical cord and the waste flows out. It's just bliss, right? And then we're born into this cold place where everything is foreign to us. And, everything is not so automatic. We quickly learn that to survive, we must convince those people caring for us to respond to us and provide us with food. They want them to keep us warm and change our diapers, and as I was listening to little Arya in the office, she can't speak yet, but she tries her best with her cries and squeals to say, I need my diaper changed, or I'm hungry, or play with me, whatever she needed. She was working very hard. So it isn't always working perfectly for the baby, and particularly in some of their lives. But we learn to meet the expectations of those care providers, right? They want you to, the care providers tell us to do this and don't do that. We've got to get it just right. And we want to please them, not just to please them, but so we can survive and thrive in human society. As we get older, besides our parents are added our peers, our teachers, our religions, the media, the greater society, and the world make known their expectations for us. Our authentic needs and wants become submerged as we try to fit in and get by. We often try to be like everyone else, right? Don Miguel Ruiz refers to this process as domestication, just like we domesticate farm animals and pets to serve our needs, right? So with compassion, we can forgive ourselves for trying so hard to fit in. At some point, though, we make the decision to awaken from domestication. We decide to begin to know thyself, to get to know who we are instead of who we're supposed to be. Right? We discover that our light has been hidden behind erroneous beliefs and identities that we have picked up along our life journey and they cause us to shrink back from living out loud and living authentically. And this is when we want to learn how to cultivate authenticity, right? Cultivating authenticity and uncovering who we are asks us to stop imitating others or pleasing others in order to fit in. Brene Brown offers a definition in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Embracing who we are. It sounds simple, but very powerful. And then how do we discover who we are? Well, a lot of the things we practice in the Centers for Spiritual Living help us do that. Self-inquiry, journaling, therapy, spiritual practices, and study. We can create space within to awaken from our domestication and get to know who we really are. Now, Ernest Holmes was inspired by investigating the meaning of those impulses, longings, and desires that accompany you throughout life, as he put it. And in his book, this thing called You, he eloquently describes the divine and infinite presence that seeks fulfillment and expression in the world by becoming individualized as us. It is those impulses, longings, and desires that are our divine self that seeks to become visible as the unique being that we are. So what are those impulses, longings, and desires that call you to become something greater, something that is uniquely you? When I first became a practitioner before my children were born, there was a voice within me that urged me to go on right away to become a minister. And I said, not now. It doesn't feel right. The conditions are not right. And did that voice shut up? Well, it did mostly for a while, several decades actually. I enjoyed being a civil engineer, environmental planner. My first husband died though. My children grew up. I remarried. I survived a breast cancer experience. And then when my whole world had stopped, the voice was still there waiting patiently. And the voice spoke up calmly and clearly. Now is the time. You are ready to begin your ministry. There's nothing else in the way. And so at this point, we learn to cultivate courage, deciding to be vulnerable, right? Because all people are expressions of that same infinite divine intelligence. There is a unity of purpose and life-giving creativity that characterizes everyone's authentic self. We support ourselves and each other's authentic self. We give each other that space. Right? Nevertheless, unity does not mean uniformity. Just as every snowflake is unique, each individual is also unique and different from every other individual. Starting with ourselves as a spiritual being, having a human experience, we start to recognize that we are unique beings and that we are perfect, whole, and complete, just as we are. And we want to express that perfection. With love and compassion, we embrace all of ourselves, those parts we like and those parts we've been told not to like. They're part of us too. Life is not asking us to be something other than ourselves. It is this authentic self that longs to be revealed and seen. There's in the reading that we had that Brenda read from, there's another paragraph as he goes on. It is because it is there that you have these irresistible urges, the longing to live more fully, the feeling that life belongs to you. There is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something which has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feeling. This is the only something that can make you whole. Right? This is your authentic self, the part of you that's God. And when we do discover and know ourselves, we discover our unique part of the infinite that only we can express and share with the world. After all, everyone else is already taken. So, pulling all of this together, we begin to cultivate authenticity by cultivating a conscious awareness of who we are. The ancient Greeks invited us to know thyself. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And then we cultivate compassion and forgiveness for ourselves for having tried to fit in and be like everyone else in the world. Emerson wrote that imitation is suicide. To live a life as someone other than your authentic self is to not live your life. You are living someone else's life. Right? And then we come back to cultivating authenticity. It's not a means to make others accept or approve of us. Instead, it is a practice of being real as we learn to love and approve of ourself, our authentic self. It is you being authentically you because everyone else is already taken. You know, being in a spiritual community and surrounding ourselves with people who trust us, we trust, also supports our journey of cultivating authenticity, giving opportunities to be vulnerable and to be a witness to others. You know, when we practice something new, I know when I do, it doesn't come out perfectly the first time. And so being in a group of people that love and support us is a part of becoming better at being our authentic self and being, risking trying. It sounds great, just be your authentic self, but it can be scary to go against the crowd and follow our own path. We must risk being vulnerable. We risk opening our heart or trying something new. We will definitely be outside of our comfort zone, right? And this is where grace and courage become important. Next week, we're going to explore how to courageously be vulnerable as we learn to cultivate authenticity. And instead of a normal Sunday talk, I will be facilitating a work called Dropping Our Masks, Discovering Wholeness. And through exploring our own inner life with compassion and practicing gratitude and acceptance of who we are poised to speak our truth and experience with courage. We'll discover a freedom that comes from dropping our masks and releasing the pressure to be who we are not, and to embrace and enjoy being who we truly are. Let's take this to prayer. And so in this stillness, we imagine ourselves winding the way up the mountain, up Mount Parthenos, towards Delphi, on a plateau that's been cleared out on the hill, towards the temple of Apollo. And we've set aside this time to let go of life the way it's been, good and bad, the joys, the sadnesses. And we are now focused to listen to that voice of spirit within. And we pass beautiful statues that inspire us about the power of the gods, knowing that it is all part of the one life that is God, part of that one God that is all. And we wind our way, and there are different little insights that come through at each point. And finally, we make our way to the steps of the Temple of Apollo, feeling that something is about to change. We prepare ourselves, purify ourselves with bathing, releasing all the thoughts and worries that it might just not be right. And as we do, we know from within and without that we are ready. And so as we step inside the naos of the temple, we see the words of wisdom inscribed on the walls, and we see, know thyself. And there is this voice within that awakens and says, yes, I am here, ready and waiting for you to discover me. I am your authentic self. I am that part of you that is God. Listen. Listen with all your being. Allow yourself to stretch out to be that greater divine self, that authentic self that is who you truly are. Know that you are one with the divine, that you are a part of the divine, that it is seeking to express itself in you, through you, and as around you, and all of life, that you are an integral piece of that puzzle of life, of the world, of the spiritual world. You are precious. Without you, the puzzle is missing an important piece. And so step up. Stretch out your arms and connect with all of life. Allow that spirit to flow in, through, and as you. And connect with all of it and understand how you fit in. Not as you had tried to be. There's already another, you don't want to be a copy of the puzzle piece next to you. But it is only when you are that puzzle piece that you uniquely are, with all of your gifts and all of the gifts that you don't have, that you rely on others for. You are the perfect part right here and right now. And together we are one. Together we are whole, perfect, and complete. Together we lift each other up to a higher level of being and existence. And we know that it is all God and it is all good. The light shines through. The love is infinite. It heals and soothes everything. It guides our path. We are one. Where there is confusion and clarity and darkness, there is now brilliant light. There is love leading us forward, calling us forward. We are full to overflowing with light and love, and it spills out into the world, that deep inner peace of knowing that all is well. And we bless those people in our lives that we love the most and hold most dear, and allow them their own space to be themselves just as they are and as they are not. And we bless our spiritual community. And together we rise together to love and share this divine wisdom with the world. We empower everyone in our lives, in our work, in our play, in our families, to be all that they were created to be. We allow this love and peace blessing to go throughout the world, touching every community, every state, every country, every person, whether they are in conflict or at peace. And there is that voice within which is awakened to say, I am the love within you. I love you. And we love the world together. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for your loving presence, for this truth that is always here, for this reassurance of knowing that all is God and all is good. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And we release these words knowing that it is already done, and even greater, rippling out into the world. And together we say, and so it is.